You're with Yasmin Jonkers, Elliott Danker, and Ryan Huang. And today, of course, we have another guest joining us right now. And he's from a country that's featured prominently in news reports throughout the year. Unfortunately, sometimes the news reports have been, I guess, rather depressing because of the many challenges that this one country has had to face this year. The latest from this morning being a high-speed train crash in the Turkish capital of Ankara, killing at least 9 people and injuring dozens more. I just want to take this moment to send condolences to the people of Turkey via you, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Singapore, His Excellency Murat Lutem, with us. Our condolences to you, but also good morning, Ambassador Murat.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you also for your expression of condolences.
Beyond all of that we just talked about, Turkey is a country that lies between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. It's got so much culture, so much cultural connections, and it's garnered so much interest this year that 2 members of our team have actually gone to Turkey on a holiday, Yasmin and Nadira.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do for this first part is dive into some of the significant news events that have shaped Turkey this year, and a little bit later on, we talk about why Turkey is so optimistic for 2019. And Mr. Ambassador, let's start off with earlier this year, heated exchanges between your president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as well as President Donald Trump. Things like public taunting, sanctions. What is the status of some of these issues? And could you share with us, how's the relationship between these 2 presidents right now?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Turkey and the U.S. are close allies and strategic partners. We're good friends, but as I guess between humans, friends sometimes can disagree. I think it's better that disagreements are not swept under the carpet, but that they're discussed, and we and our president, of course, as the leader of the country, don't mind expressing our opinions if we don't agree, even with the best of our friends and our allies. There were a number of issues you alluded to. One was, I suppose, the Brunson case.
The pastor, Andrew Brunson, that's right.
Which came up, and that was a legal case. And as in other countries as well, in Turkey, the judiciary is independent, and they passed a judgment. And he had already served some time while waiting for the judgment. And when his sentence was up, he left the country. But going back to your question, our presidents do enjoy good relations, as our nations do. President Erdogan is very open about his messages. And the 2 presidents do speak to each other quite frequently. Most recently, they spoke, I think, extensively at the G20 summit, close to an hour. And we have a good dialogue with our American partners.
Actually, what is President Erdogan like, based on your interaction?
Yeah, you've met him.
I have. President Erdogan is a strong leader. Is very well liked and respected in our country. And I think our president is serving the nation by doing what he believes is right, and that's leading the nation, and also not shying away from difficult issues. That's the only way that a country like Turkey can be led, because, again, as you mentioned, we are not in the easiest part of the world when it comes to our geography, and challenges need to be met, and they need to be met timely, and our president makes sure that we do that.
And geographically, Elliott, I'm just going to recap what you said. Turkey lies between Europe and Asia, right in the crossroads of things. And the ambassador of the Republic of Turkey is with us, His Excellency Murat Lutem. So we were just talking about those headlines, the news headlines from 2018. One of them, of course, was the slide of the Turkish Lira down up to 30% some few months ago. At its lowest, Ambassador, it was down past 7 Lira per US dollar. This morning, I just checked, 550. Well done, some recovery there. What's it taken to get back to this point?
Thanks for the question. It was in the news quite extensively, but honestly, 2018 was a challenging year, not just for the Turkish economy, but I think for many economies. Turkey is a G20 nation. There are other G20 nations that have fared similarly, and as a matter of fact, even had a tougher time. So some of the issues are actually related to the realities of the global economy. Then during the summer, we had, going back to this issue that we just discussed, U.S. Deciding to put tariffs, especially on steel, and Turkish steel is a major export product. That also caused some unsettling in financial circles. And then there's also a bit of, significant foreign manipulation, which I think some circles wanted to instigate a run on the lira. So all of this combined did cause for a fluctuation. We hit 720, maybe even 721. We are down now significantly, fairly close to where we started off before this fluctuation. 530 something odd was what I saw last night, and we'll see how the markets open this morning. But definitely we're on course. Our banking sector is very strong. The Turkish economy is very strong. The fundamentals are definitely there. We're the 16th largest in the world, the 6th largest economy in Europe, and we're very dynamic. We got, I think, a 7% growth rate, 7.1 or 2 last year. Okay. So we're on track.
Mr. Ambassador, that time of the year when the Turkish currency was dropping, a friend of mine, Miss Yasmin Jonkers, actually went there for a holiday.
Yeah, I was
but
there.
You yourself also went back to Turkey. I believe it was for an ambassador meeting of sorts in Ankara.
Right.
Any chance you could share what was discussed at this meeting?
Yeah, what goes on in these ambassador meetings? I want to know.
Diplomatic types.
A lot goes on during the ambassadors' meetings. This is an annual meeting, a coordination meeting, if you will, where all ambassadors return to the headquarters in our capital city of Ankara, because we need to coordinate. Turkey has the world's 5th largest diplomatic representation. We have 245 missions abroad. About 140 of them are embassies, consulates, and also we have permanent representations. So it's a big operation, and a big operation, like any operation, requires coordination. During these meetings, we go back, we get our instructions from our president and from our minister. We also get to meet with other ministers who speak to us and coordinate with us, because Turkish foreign policy has interests vested globally, and again, coordination is essential. Particularly if we think about this region, ASEAN came up quite heavily because, of course, ASEAN is the regional organization, 40 million people in it, and Turkey last year became associate dialogue partner to ASEAN. So the point was that we need to involve ourselves more deeply with ASEAN. We've become a partner, and actually we have a number of projects up and running in our national program that affiliates us directly with ASEAN. So we talked about those as well as extensively about a host of other regional issues.
All right.
This is your first diplomatic mission out into ASEAN?
It is. It definitely is, and I'm very happy to be here. It's a fascinating part of the world, and I'm very, very happy to be in Singapore, of course.
Okay, we're very glad to have you here, including those Turkish ice cream shops. Elliott, you had a question about that. Come on. Why do they tease you so much, Ambassador Murat, just for that
Mr.
cone of ice cream?
Why do they do that? I mean, is this part of Turkish culture to tease and then they reward you with the ice cream?
It is. I think with anything, if it's something sweet, a little bit of a tease before it
so
makes it even sweeter.
Sweets.
Absolutely. Work for your sweets. Try to grab it.
All right. So this first part of our conversation is about the big headlines involving Turkey before we go into Turkey-Singapore relations after our traffic update. The other huge headline we cannot ignore is the murder of Jamal Kashoggi. It took place allegedly in the Saudi consulate in your capital city, or in the big city of Istanbul. Last we heard recordings of his last words were being released. He reportedly said, "I can't breathe." How is Turkey managing the release of, the footage that you have to the Saudis, to the U.S., and where does Turkey stand on the matter, Ambassador? Tell us.
Thank you for that question. Of course, it's a very grave issue. Where do we stand? We stand where justice is. We stand by justice. A murder was committed, and where we stand is very simple. It's where anybody would stand when a murder is committed, anybody who believes in justice. We stand by the fact that justice needs to be served. There's an ongoing process, of course, and I think the Saudi officials are conducting their own operations and have told the world that they're working on getting the perpetrators, but we expect justice to be served. It's quite simple. This is not a matter between Turkey and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a country that we have extensive relations with, and it's a very important country in the region. However, the reality is that a very grave crime was committed, and Turkey will continue to follow up on it until justice is served.
All right. We will continue our conversation with His Excellency Murat Lutem, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey in Singapore after traffic. This time, we focus our attention on Turkey's optimism for 2019. And, more than just those ice cream stores, we find out about the business relations between our two countries.
We continue our conversation with Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Singapore, Murat Lutem. And I'm going to attempt to say a word that I learned in Turkey, Ambassador. Merhaba.
Merhaba.
To our studio here. So what's ahead for Turkey this year?
That airport, I don't know. When you were in Turkey, did you probably transited at the old airport, right?
At the Atatürk
You
Airport.
would have, yes.
Yeah, that's.
I did the same too.
That's I guess at this point a little rundown, very crowded, and I can see that you need a new airport, sir.
We definitely need a new airport, and we've been aware of this. I mean, Atatürk, as nice of an airport as it was when it was first constructed, was constructed at a time where Turkey did not have this flight volume or anything approaching it. And today, Istanbul, as it's a city built on two continents, is a major transportation hub in the aviation industry, and our current airport just wasn't up to the task. So we've built a new one.
There was a lot of news that this airport is going to open October 29th. Everyone was very excited about it.
Yes.
But in the end, it was sort of a partial opening. It's due to be completed sometime at the end of the year. Could you give some context, Mr. Ambassador?
Absolutely.
Why the delay, and are we on track for this to be fully open?
We are on track. And actually, I understand that there's some confusion about this because it's a massive project, and some of the news did not reflect exactly what happened. Here's how things have transpired. It was scheduled to be opened on October 29th, which is our national day, and it was. With a big ceremony, our president was also present, and so that part of the operations is on track. However, and this is where the confusion is in the news, it's a multi-stage project. And the first stage, which is online now, will be able to handle a capacity of 90 million. However, when the entire project is completed and parts of the project are still therefore being built, it'll be able to handle 200 million passengers per year. So the confusion is that some people still see cranes and machines working. Those are the other phases that are still being completed. And everything's on schedule. Also, another part of the confusion arises from the fact that it's just logistically not possible to stop operations from a massive airport like Atatürk and then start them entirely all at one go the next morning from our new Istanbul Airport. So the new flights will start leaving the new airport in phases. Some have already started, some of the international flights, but a majority of them will be phased in the first few months of 2019. And I think from Singapore, you'll probably be landing at the new Istanbul Airport sometime in late January.
Okay,
fantastic.
I look forward to that. What impact does this opportunity of the new Istanbul Airport have on your national carrier, Turkish Airlines, and all the jobs I think that can be created around this?
A project like this, it's huge. It's I think I was reading 80 square kilometers in total, which is very large, one of the largest airports in the world, as it is. And, of course, it creates many new jobs. But it also, I think, for Turkish Airlines creates the sort of home base that Turkish Airlines deserves. Turkish Airlines is one of the largest carriers in the world, but it's the carrier with the most international destinations globally. So you can fly pretty much anywhere on Earth via Turkish Airlines, and Istanbul will be their home. The airport will be the sort of home that, service for Turkish Airlines, and the quality and everything is so good that they deserve a home like that. And I hope I believe it'll be a pleasant experience also for the traveler, because there are airports that are airports and they're very efficient, but they're not the best places to spend time in. And then there are airports like Changi where you just don't want to leave.
Hotel there as well.
You do. There's nothing you can't do in Changi. The problem is, it's just so pleasant you don't know what to do first. So our new Istanbul Airport will also be equally pleasant.
That's lovely.
Ambassador Murat, early in the 2000s, there was so much talk in the headlines about Turkey trying to align itself with the EU, getting closer there. And then, of course, later on, when it was Erdogan in power, he seemed to, take Turkey deeper into its sort of Islamic roots, perhaps distancing itself slightly from the EU. So where does Turkey stand now in its ambitions with the EU?
Thank you for that question. It's an issue that's frequently misunderstood. We talked about this earlier. Turkey, by its definition and its national character, is a Western country, as it is an Eastern country. And of course, we aspire to become a member of the EU. And there's been no change in that. And President Erdogan still, I think, strongly believes that that goal of ours needs to be attained. But the reality is that a country like Turkey needs to look in both directions, because that's the national culture. Why would you not look towards the East if so much of your character is also defined by the East as it is by the West? So I don't think that the intention, definitely the foreign policy goal, is to turn to one or the other and to leave the other aside. Why would you not use both your eyes? Why would you not use both your arms as a human being? Why would you not use both opportunities?
Good analogy.
Yeah, so that's the drive. And actually, with the EU, we're very much, I think, in a new phase. We're talking to each other again. We just want to be treated fairly by the EU. And we have some concerns on that. But in this new phase, things are looking good again. And we're committed to our EU goals.
We're talking about Turkey, and of course we are speaking to His Excellency Murat Lutem, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey in Singapore. You mentioned earlier looking in both directions. Well, let's look in both directions, Singapore and Turkey.
Yeah.
We've obviously got some business relations. Could you share some of the companies or perhaps the sectors that our two countries are working together with?
Absolutely, sure. Our relations in the economic field are quite strong. They're not exactly where we think they can be, and we're working harder to get more cooperation, more companies working with each other, and more trade. However, things are looking good, and especially in the last 7 or 8 years, maybe decade, with the Turkish economy really taking off, things have improved and come to this good point quite quickly. But there's more we can do. There are 100, I looked this up yesterday, so it should be a precise number, 113 Singaporean companies operating in Turkey. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, there are. Some of these are 100% Singaporean. Some of them are partnerships that they've formed with other Turkish companies. Many of them are household names that you would know very well. Hospitality.
Okay.
The ports, PSA. We have other industries, tourism, and of course trade. Also investments through Temasek GIC quite extensively. So these are all good things, but we're also looking to see if we can expand this further in two ways. If we can get more businesses, Singaporean business, to go to Turkey, but also to see if Singaporean businesses will partner up with other Turkish companies and go into third markets, because there's a lot that can be done in the region of Turkey, where Turkey is already involved in. They know those other countries well, have partnerships there, and I think that would be an opportunity for Singapore. In Singapore, we have 80 Turkish companies, some of them fairly large, most of them in various commodity trades. Of course, we have Turkish Airlines, we have some insurance companies, and a lot of steel and oil exporters.
And the ice cream shops.
And the ice cream shops.
Let's talk about your outlook for Turkey in 2019. What are you most optimistic about?
Well, I am optimistic for 2019. First of all, we have a new economic program in place. It requires fiscal policy that's quite disciplined, and that's what we're doing. So things are already on track. We discussed how the lira's regained much of its value. Just in the last 3 months or so, we've already regained over 20%. So we'll work on that. Inflation is going down, and I think it spiked for a while. It'll be probably down to about 15%, and then it'll go further down the year thereafter. So in 2019, that'll be another aspect that we'll be working on. I believe in also in the economic field, 2019, we'll see more investment pouring into Turkey, because there are frankly many opportunities. Foreign investors are seeing this. We had a great year in tourism. We got over 40 million tourists, and we usually get about 30, 32, maybe 35. And I think in 2019, we might even beat 40 million. So on the economic front, things look good. We're all set with the new economic program. And then on other issues, of course, we have some security issues that we need to tend to. We always prioritize those, because we need to make sure that we're safe and secure. And there's, of course, a security risk emanating from the unfortunate developments in Syria. We will not allow any form of terrorism, be it from Daesh or from YPG, another terrorist group there, to affect our stability. So we'll be tending to that as well. And I think also in the tech sector, in 2019, we'll be seeing lots of investment going into Turkey.
Okay, when it comes to tech, come talk to us in Singapore. I think we love that topic, don't we? Yeah.
Indeed, you do.
Personally, Ambassador, you are from Istanbul, I understand.
I am, yes.
Yeah, so Besiktas, Galatasaray, which is your team?
Oh, this is a sensitive one. Let me say I support the Turkish national team.
All right, and going into 2019, we have a minute. What's your personal New Year resolution?
Okay, I'm not sure it's the greatest idea to talk about personal New Year's resolutions on the air with a couple of 100,000 people listening, because then you actually have to hold on to them. There are so many witnesses.
Goal, right?
Yeah, I know, but it'll keep me on track. So thanks for the question. I have two goals, two resolutions. One would be to travel extensively in the region with my family, my wife and my two daughters, because it's such a fascinating region of the world. That's number one. And number two is I'm a bit of a road cycling fan. So I hope to increase my mileage by 50% in 2019.
We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep him on a tracker. Well, His Excellency Murat Lutem, you've been hearing him here on Money FM 89.3, Ambassador from Turkey to Singapore. And I say to you, Saul.
Teşekkür ederim. Thank you.
The Breakfast Huddle on Money FM 89.3.